I walked into a doctor's office. 5 years later, I escaped. PT-10. The motel room smelled like stale cigarettes and bleach. A thin layer of dust coating the cheap wooden furniture. I sat on the edge of the lumpy mattress, the springs groaning under my weight, and listened. Listening was something I did a lot now. Something they'd perfected in me back in that white, sterile place that pretended to be a doctor's office. I listened to the hum of the ancient air conditioner fighting a losing battle against the humid night air outside. I listened to the distant rumble of trucks on the highway, their headlights briefly sweeping across the thin curtains. I listened for sounds that didn't belong. Footsteps in the gravel outside my door. A cough too close. The click of a lock that wasn't mine. 5 years. It felt like a bruise on my memory, tender and swollen, pulsing with a dull ache whenever I let my guard down. 5 years of whispered instructions through speakers, the cold touch of instruments, the blank faces of people who weren't quite nurses, not quite guards. They'd called it treatment, observation, necessary procedures. I called it theft. They stole 5 years of my life, replacing sunlight with fluorescent tubes, replacing freedom with locked doors and padded walls, replacing me with this bundle of frayed nerves wrapped in skin that still felt too tight, too exposed. I got up and walked to the window, careful to stay to the side, peering through a tiny gap in the curtains. The parking lot was mostly empty. A beat-up pickup truck, a sedan with a missing hubcap, and parked under the flickering neon cell office, a dark car I hadn't noticed before. It looked clean. Too clean. Too clean for this place. No dust, no mud splattered on the wheel wells, just dark, polished metal reflecting the ugly pink and green light. My breath hitched. It could be nothing. Just a late check-in, a salesman passing through. But my stomach twisted into a cold knot. They liked dark cars, unmarked, blending in until they didn't. I let the curtain fall back into place. My hand trembled slightly. I clenched it into a fist, digging my nails into my palm until the shaking stopped. Need to stay calm. Need to think. Panicking was what they wanted. Panicking meant mistakes. I learned that the hard way, watching others dragged away after a moment of uncontrolled fear, their screams abruptly cut off down the long white hallways. I wouldn't make that mistake. Not again. I checked the door lock for the 10th time since I'd arrived 3 hours ago. The flimsy chain was engaged. The deadbolt was thrown. It felt useless, like putting a band-aid on a gaping wound. They hadn't needed keys to keep me in their office. Walls thicker than my arm, doors made of solid steel, watchers behind one-way glass. This cheap motel lock was an insult, a joke. I went into the small bathroom. The mirror above the sink was speckled with rust and toothpaste. I avoided looking at my reflection. I didn't always recognize the face staring back anymore. The eyes were different, older, wary, haunted. The scar running from my temple down towards my jawline was still livid pink against pale skin, a permanent reminder etched into my flesh. A souvenir from Procedure 12B. Or was it 17F? The designations blurred together after a while, just like the days, the weeks, the years. I splashed cold water on my face, letting it drip down my neck, trying to shock myself back to alertness. The water smelled faintly of sulfur. Everything felt contaminated now. Tainted by the possibility of them. Was the water safe? Was the air? Could they track me through something I ate, something I touched? The paranoia was a constant companion, whispering doubts in the back of my mind. A floorboard creaked in the room above mine. I froze, listening intently. Just someone walking around. Probably. But the sound echoed the creaks I used to hear outside my room in the facility, the sounds that usually preceded the door sliding open, the soft footsteps of the orderlies coming to take me somewhere I didn't want to go. My heart hammered against my ribs. Breathe. Just breathe. It's not them. It can't be. I walked back into the main room and sat down again, my eyes fixed on the door. The silence stretched, thick and heavy. Then I heard it, faint at first. A scraping sound. Outside, near my door, metal on concrete? No, softer, like paper. My blood ran cold. I held my breath, straining my ears. Silence again. Had I imagined it? Was the stress finally making me hear things? I waited. 1 minute. 2. 5. Nothing. My breathing slowly returned to normal, but the tension remained coiled tight in my gut. I couldn't shake the feeling. Something was wrong. I stood up slowly, quietly. I moved towards the door, my bare feet making no sound on the thin, worn carpet. I pressed my ear against the cool wood. Nothing but the low hum of the highway. Then I looked down. At the gap between the bottom of the door and the floor, a shadow lingered there for just a second, blocking the faint light from the outside walkway lamps, and then it was gone. But something remained, a small white rectangle, an envelope. Slipped silently under my door while I was lost in my fear. I stared at it. My whole body went rigid. No, it couldn't be. How? How could they find me? I hadn't told anyone where I was going. I'd paid cash, used a fake name I'd barely managed to acquire. I'd been so careful, moving constantly, never staying anywhere longer than a night. How? Fear warred with a desperate need to know. Was it them? Was it finally over? Were they here to drag me back to that sterile hell? Or was it something else? A message? A warning? Maybe it was just motel junk mail slipped under the wrong door. Maybe. But the timing, the silence, the dark car outside, it felt too specific, too targeted. My hand shook violently as I reached down. The paper felt smooth, crisp, expensive. Not like junk mail, not like anything that belonged in this rundown motel. I picked it up. It was blank. No name, no address, just a plain white envelope, heavy. Something was inside. I backed away from the door, clutching the envelope like it was a snake ready to strike. I retreated to the furthest corner of the room, my back pressed against the wall, eyes darting between the envelope and the door. My mind raced. Open it, ignore it, run. But run where? If they found me here, they could find me anywhere. The brief illusion of freedom shattered, leaving behind the stark reality I hadn't truly escaped. I had just been given a longer leash. My fingers fumbled with the flap. It wasn't sealed. I hesitated, then pulled out the contents. Not a letter, a photograph, glossy, high quality. My breath caught in my throat, a strangled gasp. It was a picture of me, sleeping, in this very motel bed, taken from the foot of the bed, looking down at me. The angle was intimate, violating. It must have been taken only hours ago, while I thought I was safe, while I thought I was finally, blessedly alone. The date and time were stamped digitally in the bottom corner. It was from less than an hour ago, while I was in the bathroom, while I was staring out the window. They had been in the room, or watching through the window somehow. How close were they? Underneath the photograph, tucked into the envelope, was a small, folded piece of paper, a note, written in neat block letters, familiar letters. The same style used on the charts outside my room in the office. Just 3 words. We miss you.